There's one town in the Bay Area that consistently ranks at the top of a lot of different lists, and it's right here in San Mateo County. It has a fantastic downtown. It has beautiful tree-lined streets. It has fantastic schools. It's just a great place to live. That town is Burlingame. So in this video, we're gonna explore, is Burlingame the best place to live? Now, I might be a little biased because I grew up in Burlingame and I still live here as an adult, but I've represented over 600 families, couples, and individuals throughout San Mateo County buying and selling. So you're gonna kind of hear it from a different perspective. In this video, we're gonna do a deep dive all about Burlingame, so let's jump in. All right, so let's start with what are some things that people love about Burlingame? Well, for context, we are a city of trees. So we've been a Tree City USA for over 30 straight years. And what does that mean? There's some key metrics that are involved with becoming a Tree City USA. It is worth noting that we have over 18,000 trees in the city of Burlingame, and every tree is visited at least once every 5 years by a member of the Parks Department, which is pretty cool if you kind of think about it, because everywhere you go in Burlingame, you have really high tree density. And when people kind of talk to me about wanting to live in an area that has a really beautiful neighborhood feel, Burlingame kind of bubbles to the top of the list because it has this neighborhoody feel. And when we think about neighborhoody feel, that really translates into tree density. So even within Burlingame, there's different neighborhoods that have higher tree density than others, but overall, these are at the top of everyone's list. And we're gonna talk more about the neighborhoods in a little bit. Also worth mentioning that Burlingame has an amazing community feel. We only have about 30,000 people, so it's one of the smaller towns in San Mateo County, and we have 12 different neighborhoods. So it's all kind of sprinkled around there, and we kind of talked about Tree City USA. It's also worth noting that we have more than one park per neighborhood. So that's something that's kind of cool. Right now, we're shooting this in Washington Park, which is the biggest park in Burlingame. And you can kind of see, if we look over here, we kind of have, well, we like to bring our dog and run around off leash in the early mornings when it's allowed. We're shooting this now on a weekday, but if we're coming back on a weekend, this would be totally packed. You can kind of see some kids walking around over here. Over there, you have the Burlingame High School campus. We have some basketball courts here. We see a lot of birthday parties and bouncy houses, stuff like that on the weekends. And over here, we have an awesome play structure. This is put in just in the last couple years as part of a major redesign of the whole Washington Park area. And then kind of just behind me over here is the Burlingame Park and Rec Center. This is a $52 million structure that just opened up about a year and a half ago, and it's kind of a good hub for the community. There's a senior room, there's a teen room, there's a little kids center. It's very popular for summer camps as well. There's also a big ballroom that can be rented out. Like, I did an event for Rise Against Hunger for all my clients earlier in the year, and that was a good spot where we can kind of gather, pack all the food, very high ceilings, just a great place to be. Are those lights for the holidays or gonna be up there permanently?
Permanent.
Wow, man, the city's amazing. Man, that's cool. I mean, they're hanging string lights and it keeps getting better here. All right, so let's walk inside. I just wanna show you guys what the community center looks like here. So we just walked into the community center, and this is a beautiful building. I'm just so proud that we have this here right in Burlingame. Like, just take a look at the wood paneling up on the ceilings. We have some holiday lights out. You have some kind of fun design going on here. We have polished concrete floors. This is the teen room over here where you can kind of see foosball. There's a fireplace over there, and then you kind of look out onto Washington Park, and I'm just so proud that the city invested so heavily. I mean, the $52 million is a huge amount of money for a town of only 30,000 people. So I'm very grateful that we have this here. There's no other community center like it on the North Peninsula from my knowledge. Let me just kind of show you over here what it looks like. And you can kind of see there's a nice sitting area. Take a look at this. There's a TV with all the different activities that are coming up, like just today, piano lessons, Wednesday movie, drop-in mahjong during the day. I mean, this is fun to see that we have all this right here in Burlingame. We have a sitting area here too, which is actually kind of fun. The art on the wall is actually the street that I grew up on, and that is a work of art that I commissioned and donated to the Burlingame Community Center when they opened. It was done by an artist named Dale Perkins, who was a close friend of mine. He passed away, sadly, a couple years ago. He was in his late 90s, but I've done several dozen different iconic watercolors about Burlingame. And so when they opened the community center, this was a gift that we gave to the center, as well as a couple other works of art that are sprinkled around here too. All right, so this is the ballroom. It has a maximum occupancy of 561 people. And it's cool, there's a stage here. There's tons of events that happen. And again, I'm beyond grateful that we have this space. And if you just take a look at the view, it might be hard to see. That just looks right onto Washington Park. And that's kind of where there's some new fire pits. That's where we saw the city employees installing the string lights. So there's still a lot happening here, and I think it's just fantastic. All right, so we're in the western side of Washington Park, and it's not a massive park, but it is cool. Over here, we have the Washington Park tennis courts. There's 4 courts of pickleball that are being used right now, and we're shooting this on a Wednesday in the middle of the day, which I think is fantastic. So I'm gonna walk you guys over to downtown Burlingame, but in the meantime, I wanna tell you a little bit about the Burlingame School District. It's very fascinating. With 30,000 people in Burlingame, there's about 3,200 kids enrolled in K through 8. So you have about 10% of the town is in K through 8, which is just fantastic to have so many young people living here. The Burlingame School District is one of the top-ranked districts in the whole state of California. In fact, the student-teacher ratio is about 16.5 students per teacher, which is very impressive and comparable to even some local private schools. One thing that I thought was interesting in doing research for this video is out of those 3,200 kids, there's over 39 different languages that kids speak at home, and they're all welcome here in the Burlingame School District. In Burlingame, we care so much about education. There's actually the Burlingame Community for Education Foundation, which raises several $millions a year that goes directly into the schools to support art, music, PE, and other really important programs in the classroom. And in fact, a parcel tax just passed about a month ago on the ballot that's gonna raise about $3.5 million a year, which is gonna go straight towards keeping teachers' wages very competitive against other school districts. So I'm very proud that that passed, and you might be happy to know that it passed with 73% of the vote, which just shows that people in Burlingame, regardless of whether they have a kid in the local schools, they're very supportive of what we have here. And I think that's another reason what makes Burlingame very special when you kind of compare it to other towns in the area. All right, we're almost in downtown Burlingame. We just walked from over here, only a block away. That is where Washington Park is. And right here is the Burlingame Caltrain station. And what's cool about this, the Spanish tiles on the roof here are actually from a 18th century mission. So these are several 100-year-old tiles, and I just think that's cool, right? I mean, we have some history, we have a lot of new stuff here. It's kind of, we have a little bit of everything here. What's nice about Burlingame is we are so centrally located on the peninsula. I hear this all the time from people who end up buying homes here and moving here. So like, I just love that Burlingame was kind of in the middle of everything. So San Mateo might be even more in the middle between Silicon Valley and San Francisco, but Burlingame is really perfect. So if you work in San Francisco and you kind of want to be very close to the city, but you kind of want the sun, Burlingame's going to be that first town south of San Francisco where it's going to kind of check the box for community feel, awesome downtown, tree-lined streets, top-ranked schools, and also just a really good central location. So ever since Caltrain was electrified several months ago, the schedule was also kind of redone. So the trains stop here every 20 minutes throughout the day going north and southbound. If you work down in Silicon Valley and you want to take Caltrain down, it's going to take you 30 to 40 minutes, which is totally not bad. There's Wi-Fi, the trains are brand new, they're super comfortable. So for commuting, Burlingame is really a breeze from that perspective. What's nice about Burlingame is because we're very close to both 101 and 280, a decision point you're going to kind of want to make in the beginning of your process is, do I want to live in a flatter area or do I want to live in a hillier area? That's not unique to Burlingame. Same thing with Hillsborough, San Mateo, Belmont, San Carlos, and Redwood City. And if you're going to live in the flatter areas in Burlingame, you're obviously going to be a little bit closer to 101. If you're in the hillier areas, you're going to be closer to 280. If you're up in the hills, you're going to be getting lower price per square foot. And if you're in the flatter areas, you're going to be getting higher price per square foot, but you're going to be flatter, you're going to be walkable. There's more people who are willing to pay a premium to live in a flatter, more walkable neighborhood, so therefore it's just a lot more expensive to live in a flatter area. But all these areas are fantastic. It's not like one is better or worse. It's just something to be aware of because everyone values walkability and privacy a little bit differently. So we already kind of talked about Burlingame being the city of trees, but we have over 19 parks, which is fantastic. So we kind of have a park in almost every neighborhood. Some neighborhoods even have 2 parks. And right now we're actually at Murray Field. This is one of the newer parks in Burlingame. Wasn't here when I was a kid growing up, but this is a huge field. This is very popular for AYSO practice, for Burlingame Soccer Club, BSC. Also very popular. You can see like people are doing lacrosse practice right now. Some people doing a soccer practice. And we're shooting this in late December. So obviously there's not as much use happening here as there are at other times of the year, but also is right next to Topgolf, which is just a few hundred feet away from me here. There's so many different ways that kids can be involved in sports. So we have the Burlingame Coyotes, which is our lacrosse team. We have AYSO, we have BSC Burlingame Soccer Club. We've got swimming, we have dance, we have golf, we have Poplar Creek Golf Course, we have Crystal Springs Golf Course, and of course we have Topgolf. We have football, there's flag football through next level. And of course, if you're at Burlingame High School and you play football there, we have that. And then if you're into tennis, we have a bunch of different tennis courts court options. We have Washington Park tennis courts that are lit at night, also pickleball there. There's tennis courts right by Burlingame High School and the Burlingame Aquatic Center, which is actually the largest public swimming pool between San Francisco and Santa Clara. Burlingame's also super dog friendly, so if you're walking around Burlingame Avenue, it's not unusual to see people sitting down at restaurants outside with their dogs sitting at their feet. We have several dog parks in Burlingame. You can actually go off leash at any of the dog parks, and then for some of the bigger parks, there's certain windows of the day when you can just bring your dog and they can go off leash and just kind of run around. So we got a big dog scene in Burlingame. Tons of people have dogs, including us. It's just a great place to be if you have a dog. I kind of shared already that I grew up in Burlingame, and I guess I'm a little biased. And I remember when I started dating my now wife, and after a few months, we were living in San Francisco at the time, I was like, hey, I just kind of need to know if this relationship gets serious. Are you kind of like open to living in Burlingame for the rest of your life? And she kind of looked at me and she's like, well, there could be worse places. It's just kind of funny. I mean, Burlingame, even though I grew up here, it's at the top of a lot of people's lists, I feel like, for good reason. We're in such a great location. People are awesome. You know, if you check out my video on why you should avoid living in San Mateo County, there's a lot of truth to that. It's extremely expensive to live here, but once you kind of get past that, which is hard to get past, but if you do have the resources to live in an area like this, it's just so beautiful. There's so much to do here. We're only a couple hours from wine country. We're only a couple hours from Carmel. We're only 3.5 hours to Tahoe. We have world-class sports teams. We got the Warriors. We got San Francisco Giants. We have the San Jose Sharks. We have the San Francisco 49ers. We have great concerts. We have San Francisco, like one of the world's greatest cities, is only 20 to 25 minutes from downtown Burlingame. I mean, it's fantastic. So from a location perspective, we are just right in the middle of it all. You could say, hey, there's other towns in San Mateo County. About half of my business that I do, typically 50 to 60%, is not in Burlingame. So I work with many people who Burlingame's at the top of their list initially, but then they're like, wow, San Mateo's awesome, Millbrae, San Carlos, Belmont, maybe those are a better fit for me because it's closer to my work or the pricing or whatever. So all these areas are really fantastic, of course, but for many people who have the good fortune to choose to be in Burlingame, I've not really had anyone say, hey, I can afford Burlingame, but I'm gonna choose several other towns that are way more important to me. Usually people, if the numbers do make sense for them, Burlingame's gonna kind of check the box from that perspective. All right, so we just kind of walked a little bit now down to the Bay Trail, and I just want to show you this because this is super beautiful. Now the Bay Trail basically goes from San Francisco Airport all the way down basically through the South Bay. However, this kind of stretch here goes from basically Burlingame down through Redwood Shores. It goes Burlingame, San Mateo, and kind of where Seal Point Park is. It's beautiful there. Past Mariners Island, which is a 9-hole golf course, and then it kind of goes through Foster City. Foster City Bay Trail is absolutely beautiful. They just invested a fortune in creating a $90 million levee system around the perimeter of the town, so absolutely check that out if you're looking for a good place to go for a walk or a bike ride. And then it kind of continues around Redwood Shores. This is really popular for people who just coming out for a stroll, or I love kind of going biking here. And it's kind of cool. You won't be able to see this on the camera, but on a beautiful day like right now, you can actually see downtown San Francisco and Salesforce Tower way off in the distance. And you can kind of see that San Francisco Airport is only like a couple miles away from where I'm standing right now. You can kind of see the control tower right in the distance, and then just to the left is the brand new Grand Hyatt Hotel that just opened, I believe about a year or two ago. I was impressed that they put a hotel right there with all the airplane noise, but I'm sure they figured out all the soundproofing, and that is a pretty pricey hotel, but it is a good location. It's not in the city of Burlingame, but all the rest of the hotels are just kind of north of Broadway, and then a little bit south of Broadway where we are right now. We have the DoubleTree, we have the Embassy Suites over here. So these hotels are a little bit older, but again, they're totally fine for $200, $300, $400 a night. They're very, very popular. Another thing that's worth mentioning is if you just kind of keep going a little bit more south in San Mateo, right at Seal Point Park, there's a lot of people who like to go windsurfing and kite surfing out there. It's a very popular spot. And then the northern part of Burlingame, we have Bayside Park, which is kind of our big spot for baseball. We have, I think, 5 different baseball fields there, which is very popular for BYBA, the Burlingame Youth Baseball Association. It's very popular for dad's softball. It was a dad's softball league recently. So it's just a great spot, and there's so much to see given that we're right here on the bay. And if you just drive 20 minutes west of here, then you're gonna be right on the Pacific Ocean in Half Moon Bay. So we kind of have it all so easily accessible in Burlingame. Right now we're in downtown Burlingame on Burlingame Avenue, and this is kind of one of the two downtowns that we have. The other one is Broadway, which is super awesome as well. We'll get to that in a little bit, so stick around for that. If you have been to downtown Burlingame before, feel free to skip on over this section, but if you've never been to Burlingame, then I want to just give you kind of an overview, and you can also check out, I have about a 45-minute walking tour video all about downtown where we check out a lot of the different cool businesses that are some of my favorites. But it's worth mentioning, in downtown Burlingame, we have over 400 businesses. So that's restaurants, shops, all different kinds of stores, florists, there's kind of everything here, jewelry. Burlingame has a lot of good things. There's a few things that we're kind of lacking in my opinion, but we kind of excel from a bakery perspective. If you're into bakeries, we have Copenhagen Bakery, we have Backhouse, which just opened up in the last couple years, which is fantastic. Maison Alizé, which has also opened in the last couple years. We have Cakery, which has been here for a long time. So it's a really high quality bakery scene. We have really good Italian, we have Sapore Italiano, we have Il Fornaio, we have Stella Alpina. We don't really have a big Mexican scene in downtown Burlingame, so San Mateo is going to be a much better option there. We also have some really good Asian food here, including sushi. However, Bilbray and San Mateo are going to have way more options. But anyways, downtown Burlingame is fantastic. We actually are one of the two biggest retail corridors on the peninsula, right after University Avenue in Palo Alto. But if you're asking me, I think Burlingame Avenue has even more magic than downtown Palo Alto and University there. Why is that? First of all, it's just one long street. You get a lot of light here. You get a lot of different types of dining options. The city takes really good care of downtown Burlingame. We have a farmer's market that runs 11 months a year, just about a block away from where I am right now on Park Road. And we love going to the farmer's market as often as we can. We'll buy produce, baked goods. It's just a really good spot. And then we also have a lot of good outdoor dining options. Just across the street from me here is Grapevine, sort of our favorite spots. Just went there a few days ago with my mom for her birthday. We of course have an Apple store. We've got the Lululemon and Athleta. But when growing up in Burlingame, we had a lot more mom and pop. So it's kind of a bummer now that with rents being so high, we have less of the mom and pop businesses, but we still have some really cool small businesses here. Like one that comes to mind is All Fired Up, a paint your own pottery place. There's some small clothing stores. There's Burlingame Optical, which has been here forever, and I love buying my glasses there. So we kind of have a really good mixture of kind of higher end, newer, older, the businesses that have been here for a while. If you're into coffee, of course, we have a Pete's, we have a Starbucks, we have a Phil's, so you can check the box there. And then we also have some good grocery options. We have Molly Stone's a block away, and we have Safeway. So one thing that's special about downtown Burlingame is, from a date night perspective, there's so many good places to go to here, and it's just really fun to walk around here, whereas some other towns, you might, like for example, Belmont, great town, but it's not really where you go on a date night because there's not really a downtown. I grew up in Burlingame, born in Burlingame, but in my 20s, I lived in San Francisco, and that's just a fun place to be. You don't want to live necessarily, if you're 23 years old, living in Burlingame if we have a world-class city in our backyard. So when my wife and I moved down from San Francisco, before we were starting a family, we moved to Burlingame, and we really were like, oh my God, we're really gonna miss San Francisco. And so of course we moved down to Burlingame, and we thought, well, we're gonna go back to San Francisco a lot for date night. But it turns out there's so many good restaurants here. Burlingame Avenue is so friendly for just kind of walking around, and the quality of the food here is really good. So we actually rarely go up to San Francisco, and maybe this is me, but sometimes I just get a little annoyed if we're going up to San Francisco because you're dealing with traffic, you're dealing with things that might be unpleasant. It's just obviously a great place to be and to go to, but if we can check the box down here for a great date night, we're gonna stay down here. So when we do date night, it's gonna be downtown Burlingame, downtown San Mateo, sometimes we'll go down to San Carlos, and there's just so many really good options here. So just walking around Burlingame Avenue right now, I kinda wanna just, on this video, show you guys all these awesome places that we're eating here. Like for example, here, this is Mingalaba. This is outstanding Burmese food, and they get you in and out within 45 minutes. The food is fantastic. Oh my God, I feel like I just need to do a video all about downtown Burlingame restaurants because I am just such a huge foodie. But anyways, we'll get to that on another video. All right, so no video about Burlingame is complete without popping into the famous Copenhagen Bakery. I've been coming here ever since I was a kid. They have, well, one of their most famous things that they have here is the chocolate pizza. It's technically a chocolate chip coffee cake. I've had over 1,000 of those. They're just unreal. They import about 300 pounds of butter a week from Copenhagen. And the former owners, Ralph, Ben, and Sherry, they sold the business about a year ago. They had business been here over 30 years. And now the new owners are taking it to the next level here. They have some new cases, and I just love coming here. I actually do an event for all of my clients right before Thanksgiving, and I invite all my clients to come and have a Thanksgiving pie on me, and it's just super fun. So I'll just show you quickly what they have, and then we'll get back to the rest of the video. Point out a couple of my favorites over here. Like on the very bottom is the French chocolate snail. Oh my God, their croissants are good. The cinnamon roll. You can see kind of the chocolate pizza up at the top there. And then they also have a restaurant. Obviously there's so many restaurants in Burlingame, but I just want to point out all the different things that they have here. We're just mentioning we're shooting this on a Tuesday at about 12:30, and this place is so good. I mean, look at the line. It's just always like this. If you're familiar with the walk score, Burlingame actually has a walk score of 93, which is super high. This town is incredibly walkable. So if you're coming out of the city and you want to live somewhere that's flat and walkable, Burlingame's gonna be able to check the box. So one decision that you're gonna want to make in Burlingame if you're thinking about moving here is, do you want to be in a flatter area or do you want to be in a hillier area? If you want to be in a hillier area, kind of closer up to 280, that's gonna be more like the Mills Estates neighborhood and the Burlingame Hills neighborhood. So walking distance to downtown Burlingame, let's kind of start with that. We have Burlingame Park, and we're gonna do a little bit more in this video about some of the specific neighborhoods, but just to give you a quick overview, from walking distance from downtown Burlingame is going to be Burlingame Park, which is just west of El Camino. That is the most expensive neighborhood in Burlingame. It's fantastic. Larger homes, larger lots, etc. And then kind of just behind me, east of downtown Burlingame, that's going to be the Lion Hogue neighborhood in Burlingame Gables. And then just north of downtown, that's going to be the Burlingame Terrace neighborhood, be kind of between downtown and Broadway. And then just east of California Drive, that's going to be the Burlingame Gardens neighborhood, kind of where the Audi Porsche dealership is, right when you get off the freeway at Broadway. And then just kind of north of Broadway, you're gonna have Burlingame Grove, then you're gonna have Burlingame Village. Again, these are all flat areas. West of El Camino, you're gonna have Ray Park, and then just south of that's gonna be Easton Edition, and then Burlingame Park will be just kind of south of Easton Edition. So kind of depending on wherever you wanna live in Burlingame, there's gonna be something for everyone. The one thing is it is super expensive to live here. So from average and median price point, we're kind of looking at like mid to high $2 million range, depending on how we slice the data. But basically a 2-bedroom house in Burlingame is gonna kind of start out in the high $1 million range and then go up to about $2.1, $2.2 million. A 3-bedroom, it's really hard to get that under $2 million, but you can do that. I would say a 3-bedroom is going to kind of start in the low 2s and then go up to about the high 2s. I did a transaction several years ago in the Burlingame Gables neighborhood for $3.3 million, and that was a 3-bedroom home, high ceilings, kitchen open to the backyard, checked a lot of boxes. Today, that home would probably sell for maybe $3 or $3.1 million, something like that. And then a 4-bedroom home in Burlingame, there's a huge price range there, but it's pretty hard to get a 4-bedroom home under $3 million. So I would say to anyone thinking about a 4-bedroom, you're gonna kind of want to start probably around $3 million, and then that's gonna go up to about $5 or $6 million. Once you start getting up to like $5 or $6 million for in the mid 4s, you're gonna be getting like a 3,000 square foot home on a 6,000 square foot lot. In the Easton Edition neighborhood, that's gonna kind of start in the mid 4s. But if you're looking at new construction, that's pretty much gonna be about 5 to 5.5 million for a 3,000 square foot home in a flatter location in Burlingame. If you're in the Lion Hogue neighborhood, there was one that recently sold for about $4 million, but it's on a little bit busier of a corner. There's another one being built right now that I think will probably be the same price or so. It's about a block from where we live. So in general, Burlingame is one of the most expensive towns on the whole peninsula though, but it is worth it. So for example, if a tree falls in your neighborhood, in other towns, it could take a while to get that tree removed, but in Burlingame, you just call up the city and then probably within an hour or two, someone from the city public works department is gonna be out there doing that. There's gonna be someone out there organizing traffic. So there's a lot of soft things in Burlingame. You might not realize if this is the only place that you've lived, but when you look at other towns, they're all awesome. It's just Burlingame has really robust city services. Like even during COVID, when the budget got squeezed because sales tax revenue was down, I don't believe the city laid off any employees. So I think that's something that is pretty impressive and that I'm proud of being a Burlingame resident. All right, so we just checked out downtown. Now I want to show you guys Broadway, and I'm a bit embarrassed because where we parked, we're kind of close to El Camino. I've never actually parked here, and I saw this Broadway sign, which is really cool. It's a mini version of the big sign that I've been under, I don't know, hundreds or thousands of times, kind of right over by California Drive, Broadway, and 101. But Broadway is super awesome. It doesn't sometimes get the recognition that it really deserves when people think about downtown Burlingame and Burlingame Avenue, but Broadway's awesome. If you ask anyone who lives kind of northern part of the Burlingame Terrace neighborhood, Burlingame Grove, or Easton Edition, they're coming here all the time, and less so downtown Burlingame because this is so walkable like to those several neighborhoods. So you have some really good places to eat. We're gonna kind of walk down this street a little bit, take a quick look. But if you haven't been to Burlingame and you want to go check out downtown Burlingame, then you got to come over to Broadway here and go to Preston's Ice Cream because they've been here forever. But let's just kind of take a look here so you can get a vibe for what the street looks like. This is the fun thing about Broadway. There's all these really cool, small, locally owned businesses, and we're just in front of Que Sera Sera. I haven't been here for a little bit, but it's a raw vegan store, so let's go and take a quick look. I haven't been in for like several years. I'm excited to be here. I came in a few years ago when, I think, was it Alicia, or what was the owner's name?
Yeah, Alicia was first, and it was Carrie.
Okay.
And then I bought it this year.
Oh, cool. What's your name?
Eric.
Eric, cool. My name's Raziel, Ungar. Nice to meet you. I grew up 3 blocks away. So what do you recommend?
So we covered it up because we have the sun coming.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to get something.
If you're hungry,
yeah.
The Baja burgers are really good.
Ooh.
Rolls.
I think I'll get a Baja burger.
And the salads, you know, if you wanted to do like a roll and a kale salad, that's a good choice.
I think I'll get a few things to take home. How would you describe your business? Like, it's all natural. If there's no animal product. Would you call it vegan or what?
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Vegan raw.
Vegan raw.
Because nothing's cooked.
Well, thanks for letting us pop in here. All right, this looks super good. This is their burger. It's chewy. It just feels healthy. I feel like I just lost weight eating it. Yeah, I think it's maybe some type of beans and hummus on top, tomato, onion, very high quality. So fresh. We were just cruising around here on Broadway, and my sister had told me about this new place that just opened up called Plucky's Board Game Cafe. My brother-in-law is actually a game designer, and so this is a super cool spot. They have some nice tables inside. We got a cool sign here talking about Uno, and I can't wait to come back here with my family and check it out. Right next door, there's Centro Pizza. There's Adam's Fine Tailoring. We actually have a tailor in Burlingame. There's Cafe Figaro. So that place has been here forever. Amazing Italian. So I just had to show you guys Bon Sante. This is an amazing sandwich spot that's been on Broadway for, I don't know, at least 10 or 15 years, it feels like. Their sandwiches are so big, you basically, half of one sandwich is what you would get as one full sandwich. So kind of think about Subway footlongs, which, I mean, obviously not even the same category, but these sandwiches are just huge. So if you're ever looking for a good sandwich, come here. CJ's downtown Burlingame, they're also really good too. All right, so we're about a block off downtown Burlingame, and I want to show you guys the Burlingame Public Library. This is not something for every video that I want to show the library, but this is such an impressive library. In fact, I was on the board of the Burlingame Library Foundation for a few years, a number of years ago. And one thing I learned is that Burlingame at the time ranked #2 in California for its library system for towns under 40,000 people, which is completely insane. This was based on per capita funding, which at the time was, I think, around $110 per person per year. And now I think it's around about $150 per person per year. About a third of the budget for the library comes from the town of Hillsborough because they don't have a library there. And then town of Hillsborough also funds the San Mateo Public Library too. In case you're wondering what town is #1 in the state of California for towns under 40,000 people, that is Beverly Hills. So we do have it really good here in Burlingame. I sure I'll read these couple quotes they have on the outside. It says, "Any book worth banning is a book worth reading," by Isaac Asimov. And over here, there's another cool one that says, "Books unite us, censorship divides us." So let's pop in. I just want to show you really quickly what the library looks like. So I just wanted to show you the inside of the library here because it is totally insane. Like, this reading room over here is like ridiculous. So I went to UCLA and that was a beautiful library, but like you feel like you're in a collegiate campus just kind of being here. I feel like smarter just standing in the library. And what's cool about the library here is it is a hub for so many things, not just people checking out books, but for people who don't have access to computers where they can come to a resume writing workshop. Or there's a huge book sale. So the book sale here for the Library Foundation generates over $100,000 a year that goes towards funding programming at the library. We have a whole children's section over here. Let's just kind of walk around and show you this while I tell you a couple other things. There's actually 250 story times a year between the main branch where we are now and also the Easton branch, which is in the heart of the Easton Edition neighborhood. And that is so cool that we actually have a branch of the library in the heart of a neighborhood. So when they're doing story time at the library, sometimes you'll see kids walking in their PJs. It's super cute. But this is the children's section over here. It's fantastic. I actually, have good memories being here with my mom growing up, checking out the Hardy Boys books, which I absolutely love. And it's just such a crown jewel of Burlingame. I just want to show you guys over here how high these ceilings are and how cool this is. Like, if you just kind of look up and look down. It's also worth mentioning that the Burlingame Library Foundation does some really cool events. They've done some speaker series here. They brought in Ira Glass once to kind of talk to everyone. They've done trivia night, which I've gone to with my wife. So the library is super cool. as we're driving to our next spot, I was just kind of thinking back. So I actually did video about 10 years ago, and I did a series of documentary style short films all about Burlingame called Burlingame Buzz. You can check that out too on YouTube. But as I was doing that, I actually did a video at the time for the Burlingame Mothers Club, which is now called the Burlingame Parents Club. And I interviewed a woman who was the president of the Burlingame Mothers Club at the time. And I was asking her, well, what do you love about Burlingame? And she was basically like,
Burlingame is the perfect place to raise kids. Burlingame is a great community of people, like-minded people. There are certainly a lot of strollers that walk around Burlingame Avenue, but also there's great schools.
And that always kind of resonated with me to hear from someone else say that, but obviously there's many really perfect places, but Burlingame truly is perfect from that perspective because you have such a warm community, you have a really strong school system. Like when people go for trick-or-treating on Halloween, Burlingame is where they want to go to. Of course, you have a couple pockets in San Mateo and San Carlos that are also equally awesome, but Burlingame is just at the top of a lot of people's lists for these reasons. As a parent myself, I just feel very grateful to live here, just from a quality of life perspective, the walkability, being close to San Francisco, being able to pop down south, being literally 5 minutes from San Francisco International Airport and a $25 Uber or Lyft ride. Like, I feel so grateful for that. It's just so nice to have that all right here, especially with our Mediterranean climate year round. Again, Burlingame is not unique. No town is truly unique, so I don't want to like overstate that, but the quality of life that we do have here is really special. All right, so right now we are in the Burlingame Park neighborhood, and I want to kind of share this with you guys because it's one of my favorite neighborhoods on the whole peninsula. You get these nice wide streets here. You get tons of, I mean, check out these trees. They're super majestic, really large and beautiful. You can walk to downtown Burlingame from Burlingame Park, and it kind of takes the best of Easton Edition and it puts it in Burlingame Park. So Easton Edition's the second most expensive neighborhood in Burlingame. It's the top of a lot of people's lists, but I just kind of love right in here because you can just get to the Ave. Oh, someone else walking their dog here. This is so Burlingame. So just a quick word on lot size in Burlingame. If you choose to be in a flatter area, west of El Camino, you're more likely to be getting a 6,000 square foot lot. Near east of El Camino, you're more likely to be getting a 5,000 square foot lot, but that's like a very rough thing. You can actually check out on my website, we'll put it in the description, a link to a Google map on my website where you can see the distribution of every lot in Burlingame, color coded based on lot size. So feel free to check that out. But I want to mention in Burlingame Park, you're gonna see a higher concentration of some larger lots of like some 7,000 and 8,000 square foot lots, which is pretty unusual for a flat neighborhood in Burlingame and just in general on the peninsula, with the exception of parts of Hillsborough and also San Mateo Park, which is just immediately south of Burlingame Park here. But like, for example, this home right behind me, this sold in the last year. It was a 30,000 foot pancake flat lot, sold in the $8 million range, which was a record price for Burlingame Park. There's actually homes in Burlingame Park that are worth more. I just did one off market recently at a roughly similar price point, representing buyers for a new construction project. And that was in a much smaller lot than this 30,000 square foot lot behind me. The house itself was beautiful, but not recently renovated at all. There's another property that's gonna be coming in the market fairly soon at a very high price point too in the Burlingame Park neighborhood. But in general, if you kind of want to be in a flat neighborhood and you want to be close to Burlingame Ave, you're actually going to spend more per square foot here than you will in other parts of Hillsborough, just because in Hillsborough you can't get as close to the Ave as you can in Burlingame Park, which is pretty impressive. I've had buyers say to me, hey, I really want to be close to the Ave and I'm willing to pay top dollar, and then I have to tell people, hey, we got to be really patient. I represented buyers once buying a home on Newlands, and that was a few years ago, and at the time when they bought that home was a record price in the mid $6 million range. That had a 900 square foot guest house. But these things just rarely pop up. So we're in the Easton Edition neighborhood on the corner of Easton and Cabrillo. And I just want to pop in and show you guys real quick the Easton Edition branch of the Burlingame Public Library because it is so cool and unique. Let's pop in. Hey Kathy, how's it going? We're doing a video all about Burlingame.
I watched your preview.
Oh, you've seen some? Oh, cool. Thank you. Cool. First of all, you've been a children's librarian here for how many years?
I started at the library in 2000.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I've been the children's services manager since 2009. And then the children's manager also oversees the Easton branch. So I've been here working at the branch since 2009, but at the main since 2001.
And tell me about like how popular is this? How do people like?
Very popular. If you came maybe in another hour, the after school crowd comes in. We get a lot of children here. The collection is all popular. popular materials, and a large children's collection because of people living right here in the community, and they walk here from there. And there are 3 schools close enough for the children to walk here after school.
And if there is like a parent or kid standing here telling you like what they love about the library, what being in the neighborhood, like what would they say?
They would love how close it is, what a great collection we have. They like the story times here. We have 2 story times a week, and just it has a really great feel being in this small.
For the story times, how many kids come to those typically?
This morning is Tuesday morning story time. You usually get around 70 to 75
Oh, wow.
people, and Wednesday night it's closer to 40 to 50
Wow.
in the evening.
And what age range do you typically see?
It's somewhere, it's anywhere from babies up through about 4 years old.
Yeah.
But the Wednesday night, because it's family story time, we can get some early elementary age children as well.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, just that it's a great place. Come and visit us.
Thanks. Awesome. Let's just kind of take a look around here. I mean, obviously this is a little bit smaller than the main branch, but it's cool. You've got some magazines here. These are not real books, but this is really cool. And then I want to show you this really fun area in the back with the secret garden. Don't want to miss this. Just on the other side here, there's the little secret garden. And then there's all kinds of children's picture books in here. And when I shared with you earlier what Kimberly Matthews was saying about Burlingame being just such a perfect place to raise a family, this is kind of what we're talking about. And then down here, I mean, check this out. You have a really cute table here with like some solid oak. And I just kind of love these arched doorways here, again, with the solid oak and the really high ceilings. And so I feel like not only do you see this theme throughout the town in the architecture in the houses, but even in the libraries. It just has this very Burlingame feel. People talk about that a lot, the Burlingame feel. All right, so we're still in Easton Edition, and I just saw this sign here for BCE. It's the Burlingame Community for Education Foundation. It's so cool in Burlingame. People are happy to put out the different organizations they support in front of their own houses, and it kind of leads me to the point about schools in Burlingame. This is a huge selling point. Schools in Burlingame are super sought after. We have 6 public elementary schools. So we have Franklin, Lincoln, Washington, Hoover, McKinley, and Roosevelt. They are all fantastic, ranging in size from about 200 kids at the smaller end of Hoover up to McKinley, which is about 500 kids for a bigger school. McKinley actually has a Spanish immersion program. It's the only one in the district that has a second language. And we have 1 public middle school in Burlingame, BIS, Burlingame Intermediate School. The campus there is right next to the Franklin Elementary School campus. And then we have 1 public high school in Burlingame, Burlingame High School. And I went to BIS and BHS. I had fantastic experiences. Obviously, I'm way older, but for those of you who have kids and families and you're kind of thinking about schools, that's a huge reason why people choose Burlingame, is because of the really strong schools that we have. Sure, are there people who live in Burlingame who go to private? Of course, there's plenty of those as well, but the schools here are fantastic and they're a very strong selling point. Now, it is worth mentioning, I get asked all the time, oh, is one school the best or da-da-da? And obviously, I think all the schools here are very sought after, but if it's helpful, in my 19 years of selling real estate here in San Mateo County, with an emphasis in particular in Burlingame, which is where I grew up, in my career, I've only had 1 client who I've ever worked with who actually chose the neighborhood where they were going to live because of that particular elementary school. And she actually went and talked to the principals and did a huge deep dive. But my point is, this is not something that 50% of buyers are doing. Most buyers just make an assumption, hey, all the schools are very good. And sure, you could join the Burlingame Parents Club and go online and see what people are saying, or talk to your friends, or go down to a park on a weekend and ask people their impressions. But overall, I think you'll hear that people are very happy with the schools. In fact, the schools in Burlingame are so strongly supported that in November on the ballot, we actually passed a parcel tax with 73% of the vote in favor of the parcel tax, which is amazingly insane. Almost 3/4 of all voters supported that. And so the voters aren't just made up of families, like everyone who cares about real estate values cares about the schools. And so it just was really heartwarming to see the Burlingame community step up in such a way to help bridge the gap and raise more money to contribute towards teacher salaries. And that's going to raise over $3 million a year. Plus there's the Burlingame Community for Education Foundation, which goal this year is raising $3 million. Last year it was $2.8 million that again went into programs directly in the schools. So we really care a lot here, and I think if you choose to live here, you're going to be very happy. We're just walking in Easton Edition. We found some Easton Edition residents. Okay, so what do you love about living in Burlingame?
I love, everybody's so friendly, and you can just, say hi, and, you could walk around and see all the houses, and they're so beautiful.
And what would either of you say to someone who's thinking about moving to Burlingame? Would you recommend it? What are your thoughts?
I would say I recommend Burlingame because all the neighbors are super friendly, and, the houses, they fit well whatever you want to do, and, you can like there's a lot of stuff that you can do in Burlingame, like there's a lot of pop.
And what are some fun things? Like, do you guys play sports in Burlingame?
I play softball and I do soccer too. I go to BSC and it's like really fun. And yeah. If you want to live in Burlingame, I recommend it because it's the best place to live in California in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
I'm famous, guys! I'm famous!
All right, we're rolling down Broadway here, and I just want to talk to you guys about the location of Burlingame, which I really love, but it's where I'm just having this flashback memory to the Burlingame Pet Parade, which is held once a year. They shut down Broadway, and you're seeing tons of kids and people bringing their dogs and other pets and just kind of walking them down Broadway. And it's just like a cool, unique thing. But back to location, what's cool about Burlingame is I actually had a number of years ago, I represented some folks who bought a home. I think it was like a $4 million house, and they really loved the optionality from a career perspective that Burlingame gave them. And what I mean by that is he was actually a director at Google, and his team moved from Mountain View from the Google campus down there up to San Francisco after they had acquired another company, et cetera, et cetera. And so kind of living in Burlingame, it was pretty cool and convenient because he didn't have to move. It's just kind of like roughly equidistant from a time perspective, whether you're going south or whether you're going north. So I feel like, that's something that Burlingame doesn't get a lot of credit for, is that kind of optionality, but people who buy here, they really value that. I've had a couple clients who work in healthcare and were physicians, and kind of being right in Burlingame where you could either pop up to, if you work at UCSF or work at Stanford, it's just super convenient because we're right in the middle. Or you could work at CPMC in San Francisco, you could work at Kaiser in South San Francisco, or Redwood City or San Francisco. So it's not just tech when we kind of think about our job base here. We have biotech, so Burlingame is super conveniently located to South San Francisco. So a ton of people who work at Genentech live in Burlingame. It's only like a 10 to 15 minute drive at the most, but we have over 80 biotech companies in South San Francisco, and a lot of those people who work at those companies live in Burlingame compared to other towns. And then the other big industry that we have nearby is finance. So I've represented many folks who have worked in finance in San Francisco, who work in the venture capital space. And again, Burlingame is just a really central location. Hillsborough is also really popular for people who work in that space from my past experiences, but it just kind of gives you that flexibility. Again, if you're working in finance or VC stuff, and you can go up to the city for meetings, you can go down to Sand Hill Road in Menlo Park. Just overall, you check so many boxes in Burlingame that other towns are awesome too, but you just get it all rolled into one right here. Well, that was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about my favorite place, Burlingame. I've represented over 600 families, couples, and individuals buying and selling homes throughout San Mateo County, and in particular Burlingame. So if you're thinking about making a move anywhere within the county or to this area, I'd love to be your Peninsula real estate resource of choice. All my contact info is in the description below, so please feel free to reach out. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about Burlingame, check out this video where I rank all the different neighborhoods, or check out this video, which is a deep dive into downtown Burlingame. Look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.